on the Rhody Sports Network.
You know, to be quite honest with you, it's humbling to be with good people. That's what we wanted to be a part of.
This is the Archie Miller Show. For the next hour, we'll bring you an inside look at Rams basketball. Tonight's show is brought to you by Pizza Gourmet. Rhode Island's wood-grilled pizza crust is a proud sponsor of URI Athletics. Dunkin' Donuts. Sip the Rhody way. Rhode Island Medical Imaging, the official medical imaging company of URI Athletics. Newport Propane, Rhode Island's #1 choice for all your propane needs. Ortho Rhode Island, the official orthopedic and sports medicine provider for URI Athletics. Dave's Fresh Marketplace, better food, better service. Bank RI, bank on our strength. Now, here's your host, Steve MacDonald.
All righty, welcome to one of our new places, Wally's Wieners. I'll tell you what, man, this is awesome. What a great place. Downstairs is cool, and you go upstairs, we get the private room up as Pete Sherman, right? When Pete shows up, we get the private room. That's how it works around here. Newport Propane, one of our great friends and great family members of the University of Rhode Island. Pete's got his daughter here with him, and we're all excited and talking URI basketball as we get down to the stretch run, right? We're about midway through the conference play and heading to the stretch run. I want to ask you about that, Coach, but we do have one other topic to talk about before we get to that. Speaking of Newport Propane, Rhode Island's #1 choice for all your propane needs, family-owned and operated since 1959. Newport Propane will treat you like part of the family. Visit them at newportpropane.com, and Pete and Jocelyn Sherman and the whole family, just great friends and great part of the URI family. And I'll tell you what, and I don't want to embarrass Pete, who is here with us tonight, but I'm sure they do great work as far as the propane and heating and that end of things. But it's what he does and Jocelyn does and really the whole family does in the community, selflessly, not only at URI, but also in their hometown and throughout the state, always willing to help, always with an opportunity to make a difference. They step up in the biggest way. So, Peter, we appreciate you, pal. We really, really love having you as part of our family. No question. How about a nice round of applause for everybody at Newport Propane, huh? Awesome. All right, Coach, we're going to talk URI hoops. But first, everybody's talking about the big trade in the NBA that happened on, Saturday night. Luka Doncic off to the Lakers and Anthony Davis heading to the Mavs. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's probably one of the biggest trades in the history of the sport, you know, in terms of who Luka is worldwide, globally, and his age, you know, being only 25 years old maybe. And, you know, he's pretty much in the conversation for MVP every year. And statistically, he's done, you know, things that have never been done in the league. So it's kind of a little bit mind-boggling probably for everybody. I'm sure there's more beneath the surface than anybody will know or ever will know. But to put a player like him in L.A. with the Lakers, you know, at 25 years old, you know, maybe sets the Lakers up for the next decade or so with their next franchise player. And the Mavs clearly are getting Anthony Davis here in the home stretch of his career to pair up with Kyrie. So the NBA's at this time of year is trade deadlines and all that, and I'm sure teams are positioning either for the future or to try to win now, and it seems like that was one that needed to get done on both ends.
Yeah, right, and I think you're right. It's multifaceted, right? And I want to turn this to URI basketball and to your philosophy as far as recruiting, bringing players in. Some of it was money, probably, because the Supermax was coming for Doncic, so that was going to be, you know, almost $400 million or whatever. Right. So they got out while the getting was good as far as that goes. But when you look at talent, raw talent versus fit with a team, maybe Kyrie and Luka duplicate a little bit, but now you've got the ball handler and the big guy able to go get it.
Yeah.
So it's a little when you're recruiting, how much of it is kind of like fantasy league? Hey, let's get the best players we can, and how much of it is let's get the players that fit what we need?
Fit is probably, you know, well, first and foremost, talent over trumps, you know, anything that you can do. Mm-hmm. You know, your talent level and your depth of your talent speaks to the ability level over the long course of a season to sustain, you know, high level play.
Yeah.
But fit and roles and all of that stuff is really what determines, you know, probably championship level. You have to have guys in the right seat, so to speak, handling their roles really well. And think if you look at Boston right now, they probably have done it as well as anybody, obviously, with two real superstars surrounded by tremendous skill and role players that obviously are doing their part on both ends of the floor. In the NBA, though, I think you probably have, if you do your research, there's probably 2 to 3 all-stars on every team that has a chance to win a championship. And if you're trying to win a championship right now, I think this time of year is probably when you see these teams make these big moves to try to get that third piece or second all-star paired up with a couple guys and try to get as much talent to get over the hump as you can. But when you're a coach, having chemistry is probably far outweighs the amount of talent that you have if you have the right people on the bus.
And I've watched you and other coaches as well with their personnel from 6 years ago when the whole thing started with the transfer portal and everything. Mm-hmm. And it seems for you, it's been an evolution as far as before it was, hey, let's get the best players we can. And now it's that with that mix of what you need and what their expectations are coming in, how they can accept whatever role you have for them. Is it a more informed decision with every passing year with experience?
Well, I tell you, it's really changed in the last 18 months, 24 months. Within a year or 2 years, the game has really changed to, having the right guys in the right seats as much as possible, because in college athletics, if guys aren't getting what they feel they deserve, or you don't have the right role for what you promised them, that's going to really backfire. And it only takes one guy in a locker room or one guy to be unhappy to kind of mess up the cart, so to speak. So I think back in the day, you used to recruit, develop, force guys to earn what they need to earn. And at the end of the day, you would see guys fight through the adversity and make themselves better. And as they got older, they would become, so to speak, those guys that led the charge, and maybe earlier in their career they had to handle some lesser roles or, grow into roles or whatever it may have been. And you as the coach had faith that what you do works. You explain that to them and you stick with them, and you had time. And I think the one thing that's gone completely in college athletics is time. Yeah. You don't have time with guys as much, whether they're old or young, and you have to be really strategic in terms of the guys that you're bringing in and the guys that you're bringing back, that they all understand sort of their role, what they're going to get. And at the end of the day, they got to earn that at the same point in time, but you're expecting them to deliver, so to speak, in those conversations a little bit more. So it's changed. College athletics has changed. It's really changed in a big way in the last year and a half to 2 years. And I think, as much as anything right now, you're no longer building programs as much as you're building teams. Mm-hmm. Year to year, you're building teams. And if you can ever get it to the point where you have a significant portion of your guys younger coming back, you can add to those pieces. But there's going to be some one-offs every once in a while where you're probably going to have a new team. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably as depressing as it is for the fans. It's just as depressing for staffs, as there's a lot of work that goes into trying to do that. But there's also some hit and miss that you may not be 100% accurate in your recruiting, retention, whatever it may be, and how those teams come together. So it's really challenging.
Yeah, when I put my notes together, I usually go with a 9-man rotation or maybe 10 with the team we're playing, and usually at least half of them, maybe a little bit more, are transfers. Yeah. So when you are looking at a portal guy, how important is the program he came from, the coach that he had, or the coaches that he's had at the collegiate level before they get to you? It's
vital. If you were recruiting a 9th, 10th, 11th grader, you would have years to develop a relationship with the family, the coaches, his support system. You would learn him. You would learn his family, his support system. You would learn if that environment that you are trying to bring him to was going to be one that would work long term. And I think you had more years and more time to evaluate. Now you have, in some cases, 48 hours to make a decision. How do you do that in 48 hours? How do you make a decision to bring a guy onto your team without knowing the whole history of his journey and to know exactly what he's doing? So the place that he's coming from or the places that they are coming from, those staffs and coaches and those conversations are priority one. You have to get as much as you possibly can. And you also have to, try like crazy to get to know the right people in that young man's camp that is going to help you while he's with you maybe for 6 months or 8 months. So you have the support needed around him while you're going through that journey. And I know for us, as we've dive into the portal. It's changed over the last year and a half to 2 years. It used to be statistics, production, younger guys that will get older with you. Now it's about, statistics and production, but it's also about, in this 12 months, can they handle what we're asking them to handle? And that's probably more so valuable information than can he shoot or can't he shoot.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned and talked about expectations, managing and having the players know what their expectations are coming in. How frank do you have to be, just generically speaking, obviously, no players in particular, but when you're in that recruiting process, how upfront, more so maybe than 10 years ago, as far as, okay, here's your role, will you accept it?
1,000%. That conversation is immediate. And a lot of times in today's day and age, that conversation really isn't with the young man. It's with his representatives, agents, family, friends, whatever it may be, before you can even get to a conversation with a young guy and start to try to build a relationship and explain the vision or whatever it may be. You have to figure out right away if it's even worth the time. So I think that part of the conversations that we have now on the front end don't really engage in the kid as much until we figure out, okay, that's a fit. Let's work towards really trying our butts off to make this work. And if you maybe blow yourself sort of out of the water, with that as well really quickly, which is also good information to know right away. But it's challenging. There's a lot of different factors that go into the decision-making process now. We really try our best to bring in guys that we feel can be good in what we're going to do and can handle the role that they're going to do, and they're also going to be great guys, in terms of what we ask them to do off the floor as well.
You bring up a great point. There's a coach that used to be at URI, an assistant coach, that told me, I won't say who it was, but he said the worst place to finish is second on a kid because you've put in all the time and all the legwork and everything, and then you get exactly what whoever was out on the first day gets, nothing, right? Is that the way you look at it? We got to find out if this is worth the dance?
Early. Yeah. You want to find out early as possible. The best answer is yes. The second best answer is no, and you move forward, But what you don't want to do is be the guy who doesn't really know, and at the end of the day you feel like you're in a good spot, but you don't know. And I always say this, if you don't know, you're not getting them. You have to know. Usually most guys that you're going to get or guys you feel good about, you have an inkling that you're there. But if you don't really know, you're probably going to finish second, which isn't a good thing.
Put a lot of work in and end up looking somewhere else. When you are putting your list together, I appreciate you talking about this. It's just good stuff. Back in the day when I first started doing all this, coaches always said the home visit was probably the most important thing, and the high school coach. Now, the high school coach probably is way down on the board with AAU and other representatives, as you mentioned. Rather than me answer the question, what's the list of most important things?
It depends. There's two buckets you're kind of dealing with. You're dealing with young high school prospects, and that relatively is family and high school and AAU coaches. That continues to be the same. Mm-hmm. It's just what ends up happening is you have to do your work really early in 10th and 11th grade, because if you get into your season or your fall and you start to move through your year, it paints a really clear picture moving forward that a high school senior, if you haven't gotten them already or already invested a ton of time and had all these conversations about what they're going to expect when they get here, to recruit a high school senior October, November, December, and January does you no good, because you're moving on into what that next world is, the other bucket, which is in the springtime, the plethora of college players, older players most likely, are going to trump any high school kid. So, but the high school recruiting, stays the same. You got to do your work really early. There's going to be very few coaches that are going to waste time in the fall if a kid's undecided. If you're undecided in the fall, you really don't know what your direction is. You want a higher level, lower, whatever. You're going to move on from them and move forward and say in the spring we'll address that problem. If you're in the college bucket in the portal, it's going to probably start in some cases with the same people, their high school coaches, their AAU coaches, and their family. But a lot of times now it's a third party, which is a representative, either NIL or NBA. But there's an agent involved, or there's an advisor involved that is working for the family, to sift through all of the whatever questions they don't want to ask or you don't want to ask, and they get to the nuts and the bolts, so to speak, to figure out if that can work. And sometimes that really speeds up your process as well. But definitely the world we live in now in college athletics and with the portal, with NIL, there's a lot of combinations that go into players in college. High school recruiting still stays the same. And if you're invested in 10th and 11th graders and you work really hard with those guys, that recruiting process kind of relatively is normal still. But there's some concern with high school guys now that if they don't make their decision early enough or they make it early, they view that your team could change drastically to what they looked at when they were making their decision in the spring of their junior year or the early summer of their junior year. You may have a team that they look at and say, I see how I fit, and then when that season ends, as they finish their high school year, you may have a whole new team when they get there in the summer.
Yeah.
And that scares away some high school guys when you take new guys in the portal and you do some things. So there's a lot of balls in the air in recruiting right now in terms of developing a team, but you want to be able to develop a program that's about the right things, and you try to get the right guys that fit into that regardless.
Two more things, and then we're going to move on to Fordham and a few other points of business that URI has sticking right in front of you. But interesting topic. We've got Drissa coming on, Drissa Traore, transfer from St. John's, who's been a great contributor to URI so far this year. I want to ask you about him in a bit. But when you're looking at him or at someone else, we talked about the pursuit of the player. How about the research? How much video do you watch? How many phone calls to people who have coached him or seen him? What's the background check like?
24/7. You exhaust all available outlets of information that you can in short order, and in some cases you work on that through the course of the year. Mm-hmm. You build your database of different leagues, who's playing well. You develop word on the street, so to speak, guys that are potentially not happy. You start to develop your database, you watch. But what we try to do is we deal with something that has been vital to our success and vital to our recruiting, especially in the portal, is called HDI intelligence. Mm-hmm. We have and they work with our team, year round in terms of our staff, in terms of building our team, our scouting reports, identifying game plans, but we're able to evaluate statistically and analytically any player in college athletics, whether it's Division I or Division II. We're able to size them up. Our team has the same, we're all in the database. So that being said, there's a great resource there. The film doesn't lie, and at the end of the day, I think the word-to-word mouth from the coaching staff that the current kid is playing on is probably as vital as anything. And sometimes you feel uneasy about, calling another college coach. Sometimes they're never going to say a bad word about a guy, and at the end of the day, they may want him to go or they may not want him to go, but you try. Trainers, they have injury reports. Strength coaches, how do they work in the strength and conditioning program? Academics, where are they at? How does that line up with their academic people talking to our academic people? Their coaching staff, from director of operations all the way to the head coach, if you can get them. But you have to exhaust everything because you're investing so much and you need it to work.
And without getting into specifics, NIL obviously is an important part of everything. And you have mentioned on a previous show, and you mentioned in the past, that it used to be relationship-based, number one, but that transactional aspect is certainly now a part of college basketball.
Yeah, NIL is not only here to stay, but it's probably going to continue to evolve over the next year or 2 years or 3 years. With revenue sharing and everything else that's going on out there. But, young guys that play in college should have the opportunity to earn as much money as they possibly can. They do a lot of work in school. It realistically is like a job. It's very stressful. So the fact that they're able to capitalize on that as a young age is great. The way the dynamics set up probably 2.5 years ago was the worst thing that could potentially happen, and it happened, which is the transfer portal and NIL at the same time has evolved to what you would necessarily now call pay-for-play negotiations, whatever's going on out there. So you have a lot of that going on out there, which isn't healthy. And they can leave constantly now as well, which isn't healthy. But at the same time, NIL is playing as big of a role in young man's decisions as anything. Some guys do it right, some guys don't. We do it the right way, the best we can. And as we continue to try to evolve, as college athletics continues to evolve, we need to continue to support that cause.
Your man Drissa just ordered about
I
16
saw.
wieners
Yeah,
over here.
I just looked at that, and I just had a long conversation with the players about 10:30 tomorrow morning. I'm looking at that saying I'm not sure how that's going to go for him tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning.
Maybe a little sluggish about 11.
I don't know about that one, Dries. That may be something you're going to regret.
The shell
dearly.
drill might be a little tough tomorrow.
You're going to regret that.
Watching some A-10 games this weekend, and one of them they had it was the game of the week, or I can't even remember which game it was, but at halftime they had an A-10 kind of wrap up, and whoever it was talking, said one bid league. Do you think so at this point?
I hope not. Yeah. And, unfortunately the narrative, and I think as coaches, and I learned this a long time ago, you're so ingrained in your own team, your own process, and looking ahead and listening to the media and listening to television is something that you are always taught to blinders, because you have to control what you can control. If you win, it doesn't matter, right? But I will say this, from a narrative perspective, from our league and our coaches and whatnot, it's truly unfair. I've been in this league now 9 seasons.
Sure.
Okay. I was in the league my first year in 11-12, which I believe was 5-bid league. Temple was still in the league at the time. Charlotte was still in the league at the time. Right. But it was a 5-bid league. My second year, I believe it was 5 again, and that's when VCU and Butler and Mason, maybe? Not Mason yet.
No.
Maybe just VCU and Butler were added when Temple and Charlotte left.
Right. Butler was in for a year.
And that was an unbelievable year with Butler and VCU, and Xavier was still in the league. So it was a 5-bid league. My third year, which at Dayton we earned an at-large bid, we were one of 6 NCAA tournament teams, which is the most in the history of our conference. 6 at-large bids. Moving into my 4th, 5th, and 6th year at Dayton, it was a 3-bid league. Still 3. Mm-hmm. And then after I left Dayton for, I guess it would have been 5 years, I was out of the Atlantic 10. It started to trend at that point in time to everyone was talking maybe 1-bid league, 2-bid leagues. And I think we still got 2. My first year here, if VCU did not win the Atlantic 10 tournament, they were not going to the NCAA tournament with 27 wins.
Wow. Yeah.
27 wins in the Atlantic 10, wasn't getting in. I believe Dayton was the last team out one year with 13 or 14 conference wins. So as you can tell, what's happened is the Power 5 is now dominating television. When you start talking about revenue sharing, you start talking about the amount of money that's being poured into those leagues from a television network. Those networks that are on these leagues on a nightly basis are clearly at a distinct advantage than the Atlantic 10. We're not as exposed. We don't have as many opportunities, clearly. And then as they've moved to 20 games, the ACC's at 20. The Big East is at 20, I believe. There may be another one out there at 20 that I could be forgetting. Maybe the SEC's still at 18. The Pac-12, when it was existence, went to 20. Mm-hmm. When those leagues all went to 20, the Big Ten went to 20 when I was in it. You're not looking to schedule anybody.
Right.
So all of these opportunities that were created at one point in time, and at Rhode Island, I'm sure there were some games versus the Houstons of the world and the Alabamas on the road, right. LSU, they're gone. So those huge opportunities that you once had in the Atlantic 10 to shock the world, to get the upset, they're not there. And what happens when our league enters league play, we don't have as many quality non-conference resumes, wins, etc. And then when we play each other, they're not as high-powered of games as they used to be.
Mm-hmm. And it's cannibalism,
and
right? You basically,
yeah, right. So. And
I think one team wins, the other team loses.
In my 9th season here, I will tell you, it's much harder right now to navigate the Atlantic 10 than it was 9 seasons ago, 5 seasons ago, 4 seasons ago. And one of the things that's happened is the transfer portal has made our league very old. And when you were a college program 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and you were recruiting high school prospects, there was a distinct advantage to the powers that be in your league, and then the lower tier guys weren't getting as many good high school players. Mm-hmm. So they weren't as strong. They weren't as strong. You were dealing with not higher quality players versus higher quality players. Well, now it doesn't matter who you are. you're going to get a 14-a-game point of scorer who's a point guard at 6 foot tall from UT Arlington, and you know what? He could be a potential Atlantic 10 All-Conference player playing at LaSalle or Fordham, and you're not dealing with as much separation. So in a league that is as balanced as ours, you look at the conference standings right now. It's a 1 game or 2 games between 10 teams. It's harder to navigate our league right now than it's ever been. And it's a great league with great players and great coaches. But the fact of the matter is we're being pushed to the side way too much from a national narrative. And I feel like, number one, George Mason right now is deserving to be in that conversation. They have a high major roster. They have a really good team.
Absolutely.
And if they continue on to do what they're doing, I feel like they'll be in the mix. VCU is an NCAA tournament team who can win games in the NCAA tournament. Dayton has already beaten Northwestern, UNLV, Marquette, and UConn. That should be enough right there, depending on what they do in conference, to not only be in the conversation, but to be a seeded team in our league. St. Bonaventure, I believe, was 14-1, and then they've dropped a few in our league, but they're 17 and maybe 6 right now. And if St. Bonaventure would go on a run in the back 9 games or somewhere, and they'd start to get up to creep to 22, 23, 24 regular season wins, they should be in the conversation. And you know what? We should be in the conversation, too, if we do our part towards the end. But what's going to end up happening in the back 9 is there'll be some separation up top. There's going to be the middle's going to eat each other up. There's going to be some losses there. And as we enter our conference tournament, we'll probably be looking at, hopefully, in my opinion, I hope that there'll be 3 teams to 4 teams still in that bubble talk or in. They did their part. And we're not going to be in a situation where whoever wins the conference tournament gets one and maybe a VCU gets the other. But it's very difficult when you look at the SEC standings and you see the net rankings in that league and you see the Big Ten and you see the net rankings in that league. You know, as a UCLA at 7-13 in conference or 8-12 in conference, going to get over a George Mason who's 14-4. That's what we're up against, and I think that from a narrative perspective, it's very hard for us to battle, but we have to continue to fight to get our league out there more, talk more, and really bring the best out into each other when we talk nationally, what we have to do.
VCU's got the best net right now, currently at 43 in the A-10. George Mason at 70, Dayton at 73, Bonaventure at 84, St. Joe's at 87, Rhode Island's at 113. You look at that top 100, you like to brag about how many teams you have in the top 100, but the bottom end of that top 100 is not going to get you to the tournament. So I'll
be honest with you, if you just go by that and you go on history, that VCU is on the bubble with a 43, sure. Everyone else is out.
Right, exactly.
It's a sad deal. I did an interview this morning with Phil Martelli and Tom McCarthy and my brother, and they did a feed and a big talk about the Atlantic 10 Conference for 2 coaches that have coached in it at different spots or whatever, different times. And when you start talking about the league's history with John Chaney, Phil Martelli, and the players that have come through this league, Lamar Odom, Catino Mobley, and you start going down the route to phase the Atlantic 10 out, because it's a big league. You know, we're not a round-robin league of 9 or 10. We're a big league. It's getting, to the point where, I think at the end of the day we're going to have to be more creative scheduling. We're going to have to do more things to possibly help the Quad 1 opportunities and whatnot. But it's only going to get more challenging as exempt events start going away and a lot of the traditional basketball scheduling philosophies start going more towards high major versus high major. And, if you're looking at things and concepts out there, I heard one the other day that is talking about an ACC Big East basketball merger where they only play each other.
No kidding, yeah.
Because the ACC is really struggling.
They are.
I was in the league for a long time, and if you went 500 in the ACC, not only were you in the NCAA tournament, you were a high seed. And here lately, between they've had their power programs do well, but the depth of their league isn't getting the same as the Big 12 and the SEC right now.
And North Carolina's struggling too.
And
so
if you look at
some of the big ones.
You look at some of the basketball programs in that league, the Syracuse of the world, the Louisvilles of the world, and they need more quad one opportunities, and you start talking about a Big East ACC merger, and they start to play each other more in the non-conference. And
locks
next
you
thing,
out. Yeah.
You're gone again.
Right.
Our league, I think, was 7-4 versus the Big East this year in non-conference play.
Right.
And we had some really good wins as a league this year, and our league's much stronger this year than it was in the last 2 years from a depth perspective. But it's really hard to compete in this league. There's very little difference in teams. They're old, they're big, they're strong. There's a lot of guys that can really play. And, I think, the bottom line with it is we'll continue to figure it out. But I hope at the end of this year that we're looking at 3 to 4 teams that are knocking on that NCAA tournament door, and I think the next 3 or 4 weeks will tell.
And for you, do you say, and a couple of quick ones here, Coach, and I'll let you go. The fourth team is Dayton right now at 5-4, along with UMass at 5-4.
Yeah.
They're fourth, George Mason, VCU, and St. Louis from the standing standpoint of the league. So do you say to yourself, hey, we're 4-5. Let's get in that top 4.
We're fine. We got to go on a run.
Let's get the first couple of days
I've talked a lot
off.
about this with our team. We have to surge. We haven't played as consistent in January. Some of it is with guys in and out or whatnot, or just mental fatigue. But we haven't played consistently enough in the first half. Now, the second half, we have to set ourselves up to surge and head into the conference tournament and do some damage. And, Wednesday night's our first one in the back 9. We've yet to win a back-to-back all year in league play. We have to find a way to get some confidence and get going in this back 9 and play with some desperation and play with more urgency. And I think our guys know that right now, that like coming off that UMass game at home, that was a must-win. We're in those situations right now as we head into March that we want to be in that must-win situation and get ahead of the curve.
Just a quick note about Fordham. Trey Woodall took over. They're 2-2 in the last 4. Keith Ergo's going to be back, but they're playing their best basketball right now.
Best basketball of the year. Trey's done a great job while Keith has been out, and they've been very consistent. Defensively, they've become way more rock solid in the last 2.5 to 3 weeks defensively, and they've been less, what I would call more like hit and miss with what you're getting in terms of different types of defenses. They've been really, really kind of honed in on maybe a lot more man-to-man, maybe a little bit zone, and they've played their best basketball in the last 3 weeks. They were right there against St. Bonaventure this past weekend.
Yeah,
they knock off Duquesne and LaSalle in a back-to-back, and they're at Loyola in a very tough game. Going into Rose Hill on Wednesday night, it will be no different than any other game. The thing I give Fordham a ton of credit for, and I always will, they play really hard.
Yeah.
They play really, really hard. They make things very difficult, especially there, very difficult. They have 2 terrific guards right now that can really, really score. Between Rivera and Dean at the 4 position, they have some shooting there. But we're going to have to play way, way more consistent on the road in this back 9 games, and Wednesday's a good opportunity for us to go in there and play with some confidence and get ready to go.
Yeah, the 2 guards, Mador and Johnson, 13 and 18 a game, respectively. Both of them can light it up. Last question for you, Coach. This guy over here, Drissa Traore. Word about him?
He's probably, in all of my time being in college, athletics, just as a coach, I would say he's probably top 5 in terms of the guy that he is. He's the guy that I think from a player standpoint, a coach's standpoint, a professor's standpoint, you name it, you want him around. He's a great human being. He cares deeply about what you ask him to do. He cares deeply about his teammates. There's no question about it. The value that he adds goes far greater than just scoring points and rebounds. And we wouldn't be where we're at with 15 wins right now without Drissa on the roster. And as a player, I give him credit. He gives great effort. He's impacted a lot of games. As we go back down this stretch here, we're going to need him to be the best that he can possibly be. But there's no question about it. He's been a joy to have.
Is that why a newcomer is a captain on your team?
No question. I mean, anytime you're brand new to the campus and, you're on campus for 6 months and your teammates vote you as one of the guys that they feel that they need to speak for you, I think it speaks volumes about how he's established relationships, how he's carried himself, and at the end of the day, the trust that he's given people.
Coach, thanks a lot for your time and your insight. Appreciate you talking about the recruiting process.
Yeah,
and everything. Pretty interesting stuff. The Wieners are on me, okay?
I don't know. That wake-up call is going to be early. I'm not sure.
Drissa may give you one of the 26 he's eating over here. Maybe.
I'm gonna look right at him. The first guy I see tomorrow morning is going to be him. Make sure he's doing okay.
Archie Miller with us on the Archie Miller Coaches Show. Drissa's coming up in a bit. Welcome back once again. We are at one of our new favorite spots. I'll tell you what, this place is awesome. You enjoying it here? pretty good, right? Wally's Wieners.
Yeah.
How were those? You got a few of those over there. How were they? Pretty good?
Yeah, they were good.
You wolf them right down? Y'all done?
Yeah.
That's an empty plate over there that I see. That is something. So now Drissa Traore is with us, who is with the University of Rhode Island, redshirt junior, and captain on this team. I want to ask you about that in a second. But transfer from St. John's, coming from New York City, Harlem, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But what Coach said about you was pretty darned impressive, wasn't it? I mean, I wasn't stunned because I know you to be a great guy, but that was a heartfelt message from him. What did that do to you while you were listening to it over there, eating your wieners?
It felt good. I'll just try to hone into my role. Try to help this team any way as possible.
Yeah. Coach had just said that you're a top 5 guy that he's coached. He's been coaching for a while. He looks young, but he's an old cat. He's been around. So he's coached a lot of guys. Top 5 guy as far as character and as far as being a man. How important is that to you?
The basketball is not going to always be bouncing. So, you just want to use basketball to help build you and get ready for the outside world. Basketball is so little in our lives that we're always, stressing about basketball, but it's only a little part of our lives. Mm-hmm. We have more life other than basketball.
That's a great point. Want to mention this before I forget. Rhode Island's Wood Grill Pizza Crust is a big sponsor of URI basketball. Order online today at woodgrillcrusts.com. That's woodgrillcrusts.com. Having great character is important, but getting the sponsors in, that's important too. So we got to do both of them. But that role of captain for a guy who wasn't here last year. When your name came up and Coach said the guys voted on you and a few others, but your name was there, what'd that do for you?
It felt good. At first I didn't like the label captain.
How come?
I just was doing what I do. Mm-hmm. So go out there, play as hard as I can, try to help my teammates, bring the energy every time whenever I'm on that court and off the court. And just helping the younger players so we can all just be a great team.
Have you done anything differently since you got that honor? I mean, is there a different way?
Just kept being me. Mm-hmm. I had to watch a little bit because younger guys are looking up to me, so I had to watch stuff that I were doing, like my language and stuff like that. But overall, just being me.
How is the chemistry on this team, your friends that you're playing with?
Cool. We're always hanging out, We're always together, always laughing, joking. It feels like a brotherhood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You got a guy who gave you a ride today, right? Justin Bianchi. Who is a Rhode Island guy, born and raised in Warwick, Rhode Island. Right?
Shout out Bianchi.
He's over at URI as a student manager now, doing a great job. We're very proud of him. Talk about those guys, the student managers, man. I know that Jackson and Justin, the whole bunch, they do a lot of good work for you. They're good friends.
Yep. All of them are doing, they're like nobody. They do the stuff that nobody sees. We really appreciate them, and we need them. They're a part of our team. So whenever we going out to war, they're going out to war with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of Harlem, Cam Estevez is a Harlem guy as well.
Yep.
Did you know each other at all?
Yeah, we ran into each other during COVID. Actually, funny story. When I first seen Cam, this is COVID, so we really wasn't supposed to be out. So there's this one court in the neighborhood that everybody in the neighborhood would go to because it was the only one open. I seen Cam in there. I wanted to play. I think it was his brother and my brother. Okay. We were playing 2-on-2, and I accidentally gave him my elbow. Had him. Yeah.
Accidentally.
My bad, Cam. I was excited because I haven't played anybody in a while, so.
Now, did he remember that when you came on
campus?
Yeah,
he definitely did.
What do you have to say?
He did not forget. He said, I didn't forget about that.
I want to get you back. Has he gotten you back yet?
Not
no,
yet.
He knows better. He knows better. Cam's a strong kid, but he ain't as strong as you. He knows he's going to take that elbow home with him, and that's just going to be it, right?
That's my guy.
But that's cool to have somebody from your home neighborhood, right?
Yep.
Yeah, make it.
We know the areas. We know where we live. When we go back home, we can see each other. Hang out.
What's that park that you guys are on?
It was a schoolyard. It was on 112th and 7th.
Does it always have good games there? Like I know Rucker Park. That's the only one I really know. But
I mean, it was there it was a schoolyard.
Yeah,
and it was open.
Right.
You know.
But you get some good players during the summer playing over there around your neighborhood?
Yep. Definitely Kingdom, because that's where I'm from. I'm from Foster Projects. And Kingdom, we have – there's something called Midnight Madness. You know, we have a few basketball players, D1 players, you know. Mo Bamba's from there.
Okay.
A lot of college and NBA players.
So you get some good competition there, huh? Yeah. That's it. You kind of measure yourself and see how it's excellent. How was your game? Because you were at Long Island Lutheran, right?
Yep.
How was your game then, as opposed to what we see now? Where has the development been?
I think the development, just understanding the game. You know, as you play, as you grow and play the game slows down, and I feel like the game slowed down a lot, especially from high school. I learned a lot. Shout out to Coach Buck. They're doing their thing at Long Island Lutheran.
Having a good year?
They're having a great year. So, he did a great job teaching me the fundamentals, you know, and then I'm bringing that to every stage I go to, just adding on, you know, just seeing the game slower. Yeah.
I love your game. You know, you're a big guy, but you can go guard smaller people. Talk about that athleticism and that dedication to being able to play a 6'6", 6'5" guy, 6'4" guy.
Yeah, you know, nowadays everybody's switching everything.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to go out there and help my team. And for me, because I wanted to just come in and have an opportunity to play. And I know defensively, if you can guard 1 through 5, you can play.
Now, Drace, you know, because we do the games on the radio and streaming. Always rooting for you, but when you step back to take that three, sometimes it's like, okay, here we go.
Hey, I have a lot of confidence in that shot.
Yeah, you got a
man.
pretty good shot from out there, right? Is that something you work on?
Yeah, I try to get in, you know, before and after practice, just working on it, just staying confident, you know, and just sticking to a routine.
And you take it at the right time, right?
Yep.
The shot clock winding down, or if they sag off you a bunch, right? And then free throws as well. You've had a steady success at the free throw line. Talk about how much time you put in for there. I know that's a big one with Coach, right?
Yeah, Coach, you know, we have this thing called stride work, and every day after practice or before practice, you get 50 free throws in, you know, just everybody just getting the reps up. So when it's time to go in the game, we're confident when we get to that line, step up to the line confident and let it fly.
Absolutely. What about this team? You guys are halfway through the conference play. What makes you believe that you can get on that run that Coach talked about, you know, and put wins together before the tournament? What do you like about this team?
It's the depth, you know. Like the first unit, we know what we're going to get out the first unit. But like the second unit, when we get out there, we're going to go in there, play as hard as we can, you know, push the pace, hit some shots, get the crowd into it. It's just the depth between all of us, and we all play together. And we're just so talented as a group.
So you're starting on the bench, and you're looking at this game. What do you see on the floor? What are you looking for on the floor before your number gets called? You know about what time you're going to get that chance to get in.
I'm just seeing the coverages, you know, what they're doing offensively, their play calls, and the pace of the game. If Coach wants the pace to pick it up, is the energy a little, you know, down? Just pick it up some. So, yeah.
And what does he say to you, like your role on this team? What is he asking you to do?
Oh, go in there and just non-negotiable, rebound and defend. Go out there and bring energy to teammates, you know. You'll go attack the offensive glass, defensive rebound, talk to your guards, you know, and just keep the energy high on the bench.
Transfer from St. John's. You got any good Rick Pitino stories for us?
I have plenty.
They're not for us, though, right?
No.
What was it like playing for him?
It was great, you know. Shout him out, big shout out to him. I appreciate him taking me in after, you know, my other coach, Mike Anderson, was dismissed.
Yeah.
It was a big honor for him to tell me, like, oh, I want you on this team, you know. So, yeah.
And Archie, talk about Coach Miller and your experience here at the University of Rhode Island.
It's been great, Coach, when it was time, he was one of the first coaches to hit me up. And he's like, we got an opportunity for you to, come here and play. And that's what I did.
What was it about URI that you said, yeah, I think this is my spot?
It was just the opportunity, it was something different. I've been in New York. Mm-hmm. I haven't left the state, so it was good for me. I needed to leave.
Yeah. I know I was looking back at your St. John stuff, and you said one of the reasons you picked St. John's is close to home. Yeah. This is still relatively close. You still be able to get friends and family down a little bit for games?
Yep.
Yeah, not too far up the road, right?
A little different. Culture shock for them.
Now, speaking of family, 4 brothers and sisters?
There's 5 of us. So there's 3 sisters, 1 brother. My brother's actually committed. Shout out to Drissa Traore. He's actually committed to Brown University.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we're going
for next year?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is. Now, where are you in the age
I'm
order?
the oldest.
You're the oldest?
Yeah.
Oh, the old man. All right. And your brother is the youngest?
No, he's the middle.
Middle. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's going to Brown next year.
Yep.
That's excellent, Coach Miller. And the whole group, that's going to be Coach Martin over there. Going to be great. That's a super program. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about your family. So what kind of player is he? How big is he?
He's the same height as me. I think he might be. He's catching up to me. So he's catching up to me. He might be my height, maybe a little bit taller, but he's more on the perimeter. More guard oriented. He can shoot the ball. Super athletic.
Yeah. So now when you play him, what's that like?
Not yet. Not yet.
Getting close, though?
Close.
Better than it was 5 years ago?
Oh, yeah. He came a long way. He worked so hard.
And now, did he go to Lutheran as well?
No, he goes to Millbrook School.
Oh, okay, great. So to have him in town is going to be so cool. Yeah. That's really great. Soccer player in high school. I heard you're a pretty good soccer player.
I played in elementary school, but you'll see me if you come to the game, you'll see me juggling the ball before practice.
Yeah. Now that I mentioned, you're pretty good. So
right.
High school did you play? Just elementary.
Just like for fun. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You must have. You're a pretty big soccer player. I tell you what, man. I'd give you the ball. Right, if I was on the other team. Here you go, man. Whatever you're looking for, you got it. Yeah. What are your goals the rest of this season? We talked about the team goals, but you individually, if you could say, hey, you know what? This is the area of the game that from now until the end of March when we're done, this is where I want to improve as a player.
As a player, having confidence when I go out there on the floor, having confidence that my coaches have confidence in me and going out there just do what I do and not being scared to do anything,
So I bump into Drissa Traore on the quad at URI, going from class to class or whatever. Who you hanging with on this team? Who you?
We all hang like. It might sound cliche. We all hang out together, like all of us, like just chilling. But most of my roommates, Cam, Damon, and Jamar.
Who's the funniest guy on the team?
Funniest? Everybody's hilarious. Everybody's hilarious.
Got to pick one, man.
I'm gonna say Cam.
Cam? Really?
Yeah.
That's a shocker. That's a shocker right there. Is it really? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, Drissa, hearing Coach talk about you, is a great depiction of what kind of person you are, and it's somebody that we're awfully proud to have part of this URI program. We thank you for coming here.
Yep.
We thank you for making the contributions that you've made, and also for being the person that you are. We really appreciate it, man.
Appreciate that.
Continued success. All right, we'll see you. See you in the Bronx. All right?
Thank you. Yep.
So you must have a lot of people coming, right?
Yep.
Who we got? Who we got for the Fordham game?
This
is right next
parents,
door. How long would it take you to get home from Fordham?
From Fordham, probably like 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay.
Just take the B train.
So who's coming?
Parents.
Yeah.
Sisters. Family and
Got
friends.
some friends and everything. Yeah. All right. Who's gonna have more people? You or Cam?
I don't know.
You got to beat them. You got to beat them, Drissa. All right. And tomorrow when Coach says how those hot wieners are doing, you got to make sure you do the sprints, okay?
Yes, sir.
Drissa Traore, everybody. Fantastic. Great job. We appreciate you very much. I want to thank everybody here for having us at Wally's Wieners in Newport on Thames Street. It's URI basketball against Fordham on Wednesday, and then staying on the road and heading down to Fairfax, Virginia to take on George Mason. Only team to beat George Mason so far this year. Thanks a lot for being with us on the Archie Miller Coaches Show. Have a great rest of the night, and go Rhody.
You've been listening to the Archie Miller Show. Tonight's show has been brought to you by Rhode Island Medical Imaging, the official medical imaging company of URI Athletics. Dunkin' Donuts, sip the Rhody way. Ortho Rhode Island, the official orthopedic and sports medicine provider for URI Athletics. Pizza Gourmet, Rhode Island's wood-grilled pizza crust, is a proud sponsor of URI Athletics. Bank RI, bank on our strength. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation of the Rhody Sports Network.